Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for attending Hospice Peterborough's 33rd Annual General Meeting. My name is Heini Hős, and I have the honor to be the Executive Director of Hospice Peterborough. Let me begin by respectfully acknowledging that although we meet virtually, most of us probably reside on Mississauga Anishinaabe traditional land, and we offer our deep gratitude to our First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and relations. May we honor those things. We acknowledge that where we meet is the land and territory of the Anishinaabe people. We gather with gratitude to our Mississauga neighbors. We say Michweg to thank them and other Aboriginal peoples for taking care of this land from time immemorial and for sharing this land with those of us who are newcomers. Out of that gratitude, we are called to treat the land, its plants, animals, stories, and its peoples with honor and respect. We are all treaty people. We acknowledge that the land on which Hospice Peterborough is located is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Mississauga and in the territory covered by Treaty 20. It has been another exceptional year for Hospice Peterborough. We battled with the reality of COVID-19 for the entire year, 365 days. We held 312 virtual programs. We supported 224 caregivers, 638 grief clients, and 183 youth. We had 33,261 client interactions. Our board created a new strategic plan for the organization and new bylaws. We embraced accreditation, which we will continue and hopefully finish this year. We said goodbye to a few colleagues and welcomed new team members. None of this would have been possible without the dedication of this community, our clients, volunteers, board and staff members, donors, and community partners. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to all of our donors who see the value of our mission. Thank you all for being a critical part of our mission to support people and families facing end-of-life, life-threatening illness or grief. And now a few housekeeping notes. We are recording this meeting on Zoom and we'll post the recordings on our website and YouTube. The meeting package is available on our website and was also sent to you. These documents will not be shown on screen during this meeting, so you may want to make them available to yourself now. Our annual report will be shared by email or on our website and through social media in the next few weeks or even in the next few days. Zoom has a few features you might want to use tonight. On the top right of your screen, you can click on different view options. When you choose gallery view, you can see who is attending, everybody or at least 20 people. Speaker view will show you only the person who is speaking. I would kindly ask you to please mute your computer now if you have not done it yet to eliminate background noise. You can do so by clicking on the blue mute icon at the top right-hand corner of your screen or along the bottom. You can unmute yourself with the same method. If during the business portion of the meeting you do not support a motion, please unmute and state your objection when the chair asks if anyone is opposed to a motion, especially if you join the meeting on the phone and cannot be seen. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Then now, without further ado, I would like to welcome David Kennedy. David does not need an introduction in hospice circles, and he actually asked that I don't do a complicated one. As most of you know, David was a supportive care counselor with hospice for many years until his recent retirement at the end of May. We are still recovering from this loss. Because we don't see him daily anymore, we really take any opportunity we can to learn from him. And what better opportunity there could be for this than an annual general meeting? Ladies and gentlemen, David Kennedy.
Thank you, Heini. Appreciate that so much. And I want to begin by saying thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak to some of my favorite people. And I will reserve my personal comments to the end of this presentation. I had a parent in the parent group that I was part of for many years who used to say, the only normal is a setting on a dryer. And that certainly has been the reality for hospice for these past couple of years. Last year on Zoom at our annual meeting, Dr. John Beamish, who, by the way, we are so delighted to see him receive that award that he so fully deserves. And we appreciate all that he has done for hospice. But last year at hospice, in his words, he talked about the first full year of hospice in our new facility. He spoke of the challenges of adjustments and changes that came as the result of a new facility and the addition of 10-bed care center. These were adjustments to the normal in terms of staffing and growth of clients and caring for the space without losing sight of the real work of hospice, the caring for people wherever they are. And it was such an accurate and good portrayal of the challenges that were faced and what was needed in the years to come. And then came the pandemic, something that no one saw coming. And any hope of normal was soon put aside. And instead, we were forging our way through uncharted waters and territories, and normal was something on no one's lips. Certainly, anyone involved in hospice work understands clearly that we cannot control life and the things that happen the way that people would want or imagine they can. So while this year certainly produced some major challenges to the work of hospice, it has not shut down the work of hospice. The obvious reason for that is that people continue to die, and we need to continue to care for individuals and families along the journey of dying and the resulting grief that does not go away. But it certainly has not been anything like normal in its trajectory. Then, of course, there's the resiliency of hospice, the incredible teamwork and passion among everyone involved to find a way through this. What the pandemic did do was to force hospice in every area of its work to make changes and to find ways, sometimes very creative ways, to provide the kind of service that this community and county have come to expect and rely on. This was a massive undertaking. I would say to begin with, in describing this tsunami, was the fact that so many of the decisions regarding what was allowable and what was not were out of the hands of hospice. The pandemic demanded that there was a unified effort in steering all of us through these uncharted waters. The local health unit and the provincial health regulating bodies made decisions regarding all health-related agencies, including hospice. One of the most devastating realities and necessities that happened right at the beginning was the order that hospice would no longer be able to utilize our volunteers in their work and presence, both in the building and in the homes of people in the community. This was devastating because we all know, all of the staff at hospice know, the invaluable contribution that our volunteers make in the life of this organization. You folks are not just add-ons to our work here. You are the heart and soul of this organization. And your absence here this past year has left a huge hole that is impossible to fill. And we cannot wait until you fully return. Some people wondered if the period of absence would cause some of our volunteers to lose their passion for the work. But I know, having worked for the past 12 plus years with these incredible, amazing people, that they would stick it out and they would be with us. And as soon as possible, they would be back here. I know the quality and the character of the volunteers of hospice, and not even a pandemic can destroy that. I want to say thank you to Catherine for reaching out faithfully to the volunteers and staying connected and keeping them connected with hospice. You did an amazing job. It has been a challenging year on the staff, for sure. Last year, John spoke of the transition of leadership from Linda Sunderland to Hoyne. And we have been absolutely delighted to have welcomed Hoyne into the executive director position. But what a welcome for her to embrace. Hardly getting her feet wet and the pandemic hits. And suddenly it's not a matter of finding the normal hospice, but it's steering the hospice ship through this incredible storm. And she has been amazing. But oh, what a challenge that has been. Not even COVID created, as she alluded to, all of the challenges that she faced. It was about the need to care for staff and the staff changes that seemed continually challenged. Paula, the previous year, retired. Jody retired, and then myself. Now, Angela has a favorite word for us, but I'm going to leave that to her to explain. However, for all of us staff, whether it's the building maintenance, the food services, the fundraising, the administration, community client support, the resident staff, everyone was called on to face each day with no normal to provide guidance. Early on, staff who could do so were asked to work from home, and face-to-face meetings were no longer possible. And again, this was out of our control, and it required courageous adjustments to make sure that the work that was needed to be done was being done. Now, there were several fallouts from this. First of all, the working from home over an extended period of time challenged the incredible, tight, and caring team of hospice. Not physically seeing our colleagues hurt, and the normal day-to-day chatter and spontaneous support, and of course, laughter, was missing. For those of us who came into the building to work because of our commitments to the residents, it was an eerie feeling downstairs. A place of usual gathering and camaraderie was quiet. The medical team responded in incredible ways. The nurses, the PSWs, the palliative doctors, they were all forced to adjust to new rules and new parameters that were changing often day by day. It was hurtful to the staff to have to be enforcers of rules, that they were mandated and necessary. But these were rules that seemed to fly in the face of hospice and how we would normally function. But they were all amazing. But however, the inevitable cumulative stress showed. It showed in fatigue. It showed in the sadness that what we had known about the incredible ways that hospice cared for people at end of life was not possible in the same way, in the myriad of ways that we had done that before. But it did not stop the wonderful, loving, caring way that hospice staff looked after people. Families struggled with how to know best in ways to perhaps find ways to visit and have access to visiting for loved ones. And that meant that many of our clients stayed home longer than they would have, because at home they were not under the same restrictions as being in a healthcare facility. This resulted in the fact that people coming into the residence often died quickly. And this impacted the staff, who were not able to develop the same connections with residents while they were alive as they usually did. I know this was and is very heavy for the caring staff at hospice. The community staff connected with families in the community, whether in grief or palliative work. And again, the challenge of finding ways to do the work outside of any normal was not easy, but it was accomplished. For community team members, the inability to be with people face to face added another layer that we all wish just could be different. Amy kept us all going on track, and the palliative navigators had to find ways to connect with people to do assessments by phone, something so far from normal. The whole development team were amazing. How do you raise funds when many of the major fundraising events of hospice depend on face-to-face gatherings no longer possible? So much could be said here, but thank you to an amazing team. The board of hospice has been amazing throughout all of this as well. They were encouragers to the staff. They sent in goodies. They sent messages. They showed up with little things that really were big things. And it made a huge difference. Thank you, board, for keeping things going through all of this. And you are as much a part of the work as hospice as any of us here. And finally, most of all, the loss of normal happened for our clients and families, those that hospice seeks to serve. Let me make a few observations of what I observed over this past year among our clients. First of all, I observed the challenge of dying. Not everyone gets to have choices around their death, but the people that we work with in palliative do. And part of the work of the hospice team is to help people find meaningful and helpful experiences at end of life, and perhaps to even help plan some things around their death. For example, who do they want to be there and be present? What types of things might be done at that time? But COVID challenged all of that. And it was heartbreaking to watch people realize that the time that they may have had while they were able to do something was taken away because of the shutdown of travel and of closures. Secondly, I observed a lack of and a restriction of support systems for individuals and families. For example, the limits that were placed on the number of visitors, etc. Hospice, I am proud to say, did everything it could to make sure that the people that needed to be present at the end of life were there. But boy, that took some creative doing. Third thing I observed is the supportive care counseling team. We witnessed an increased anxiety among people that were caused sometimes by the fears of being alone and being cut off. And the restrictions of movement and gatherings further served to cut them off from others. There was anxiety with people who were newly diagnosed, who were waiting longer for treatment because of the strain on the healthcare system. And fourthly and finally, I observed in the grief system that people needed to be together, but they found it very difficult to do that. So much of the work that Sheila and the team does is facilitated by face-to-face meetings with clients and in groups. Working with families and children in grief required a switch to Zoom. But the reality is that both parents and kids are zoomed out, and everyone longs again just for face-to-face meetings. But here's the good news. We survived. Not only did we survive, but we made huge contributions to people and families in grief and in palliative care and in caregiving. What a team we have at hospice. They did amazing work. One final piece of gratitude before I leave you with my final thought. I cannot tell you how absolutely ecstatic I am that while it was such a hard decision for me to leave hospice, you have three amazing people who will be filling in the role of supportive care counselors. Julie Brown, Red Keating, and Lynn Galeazza are amazing. And they are a fantastic team that I know will make a huge difference in the lives of individuals and families. So what do I want to leave you with on a personal level? Three things. First of all, my deepest appreciation for the gift that you have given to me over these years. My heart is full. I am so grateful that hospice gave me the most meaningful and fulfilling years of my career. Not just the people we served, but you folks, the staff, the volunteers, the board. My life is richer because of all of you. Thank you. Secondly, I want to leave you with my confident hope for the year ahead. One thing I always tried to instill with people when I met with them was a sense of hope. Even if we're not sure what to hope for, we can always hope that things will be different than what they are now. COVID will cease to be the driver of our life. And again, we will be able to do the things that we want to and need to. I know that this will be a great year for hospice. Volunteers getting back, staff getting back, life returning to, well, we've learned that normal is only a setting on a dryer. And finally, I want to leave with you my hope and my earnest desire for the best years to come for hospice. I struggled with what to leave you in terms of a reading. There was so much I could have read, but I decided to read again something that I wrote at the dedication of our building almost a year and a half ago. And I leave it with you because I think it resonates with me as the words that I choose, and I think the message for me that I want to leave with you and the hope for you in the future. May hospice continue to be a safe place, full of understanding and acceptance, a place where you can be as you are, without the need of any mask of pretense or of image. May hospice be a place of discovery, where possibilities that sleep in the clay of your soul can emerge to deepen and refine your vision for all that is yet to come. May hospice be a place of courage, where healing and growth are loved, where dignity and forgiveness prevail, a place where patience of spirit is prized, and the sight of the destination is never lost. Though the journey be difficult and suffering a constant companion, may there also be great delight in and around this space. May it be a place of welcome to all who are exhausted and in need of rest. And may you have the eyes to see that no one arrives without the gift of themselves, and no guest leaves without a blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you for everything you have done for hospice and our clients throughout the years. I can promise you this won't be the last time we invite you back. I think you are coming back next week immediately to record another podcast, so we won't let you fully go. If anyone would like to watch David's presentation again, it will be shared on our website and through social media after the meeting. And now, if everyone is ready, we can start our official 33rd annual general meeting. Let me introduce to you our president and chair of our board, Bob Campbell.
Thank you, Heidi, and welcome everybody. This is several times that I have to follow David Kennedy. It's hard pressed to top his words of wisdom, and I know as a friend and as watching him work, I only have total admiration for what you do and what you have done. So thank you. I have the pleasure of being the MC for the business part of the evening, and this is our second virtual annual general meeting, and we certainly hope that technology cooperates tonight, and if it doesn't, then if I freeze at some point in time, then I know that Len Lifchus will take over, and if he freezes, then toss a coin, you know. But welcome. I want to make some preliminary comments just before we get into the work of hospice, and that is that I hope that you find the information interesting and informative. I have 3 screens on my computer, and so I'm going to try and sort of work that. We don't have many motions, 3 or 4 motions, and so I would ask you to indulge in terms of the patience of doing that. People who are going to be second in terms of motions and voting members are board members, of course, board committee members, and volunteers who have been active volunteers on May 25th, 2021. I know that you have had a chance to look over the materials, some of the financial information. Most of the financial information has gone out. I hope that you've had an opportunity to look at that and to address any questions that you might have prior to the meeting tonight. We have, in order to expedite through some of the motions, the executive members will move a certain motion, and I will be looking for a second for that. I will then ask if anyone is opposed to the motion and if anyone abstains from the motion. So you can please let me know however you want when those things happen. I'm assuming that, I will assume that if there is no opposition and nobody abstaining, then the motion will be carried. And then we'll move on, okay? Use the chat box to communicate if you like. It's always a little awkward, but we'll manage through, I'm sure. I'd like to start by looking at the agenda for tonight's meeting and also the minutes of the meeting, the annual general meeting on June the 25th, 2020. Both of those have been in your package. The motion will read, be it resolved that the agenda of the AGM of 2021 be approved, and that the minutes of the AGM of June 25th, 2020 be approved. And that has been moved by Shelley Berry. Could I have a second for that motion, please? And just call out if you like. Make sure we get your name though.
I'll do it. It's Marie Hines.
Marie Hines, thank you, Marie. Do we have anybody in opposition of that? And anyone abstaining? Thank you, that's carried. At this point, I'd like to, and I think that Marie is here. I think I saw her face. Let me introduce Marie Dietrich from Grant Thornton, our auditing firm, who will present the audited financial statements for 2020 and 2021. Marie?
Thank you, Bob. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here to present the audited financial statements. You can follow along by looking at the summarized audited financial statement document that was included in the AGM email. Before I get into the statements, I'd like to thank Angela again this year for all of her hard work with us throughout the audit. She did an amazing job as usual. It was another different year having to perform the audit remotely, and she was very accommodating with all of our requests. Last month, we met with the Finance Committee to review the results of the audit and the financial statements. The Finance Committee recommended approval of the statements to the Board of Directors, and the Board approved the financial statements on May 27th. Our role as auditors is to ensure the financial statements are materially correct. We qualify our opinion on the financial statements due to there being no audit tests available to ensure that revenue from donations and fundraising is complete. This is a very common qualification for not-for-profit financial statements. Our opinion is disclosed in the independent auditor's report, which states that other than the qualification I mentioned, the financial statements and disclosures are materially correct as at the March 31st, 2021 year end. Looking at the right-hand side of the summarized financial statement document, the Statement of Operations, this was the second full year of operations with the Care Center. Revenue was approximately $3.2 million, which was a decrease of about $400,000 from the prior year. And that decrease was mainly due to lower donations and bequests. The major categories of revenue are $2.4 million funded by the government, $600,000 from donations. There was about $112,000 of government assistance for wage subsidy and pandemic pay, $93,000 from fundraising, and $45,000 from grants and some small other revenues. Total expenses were approximately $2.96 million, which was an increase of 1.5% from the prior year. The largest portion of expenses is remuneration and contract fees, and that amounts to $2.2 million. The next largest expense is amortization of capital assets, which came in at $303,000. Other expenses amounted to $457,000. Overall, there was a healthy bottom line with an excess of revenues over expenditures of $279,000. Looking at the left-hand side of the report, the Statement of Financial Positions, which shows the assets, liabilities, and fund balances as at the year end of March 31st, shows that total assets are just under $11.4 million. Most of that is in capital assets of $8.9 million, which is property, furniture, and equipment. And there's also a very healthy cash and investment position of $2.4 million. On the liability side, it includes accounts payable and accruals and deferred revenue amounting to $312,000. When you subtract the liabilities from the assets, you come to the fund balances, which were almost $11.1 million. $8.9 million of that was invested in capital assets. $1.6 million was internally restricted by the board for capital asset replacement and operational emergencies. And the remainder was an unrestricted balance of $527,000. Overall, there was a very healthy financial position. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Marie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for attending, and thanks for all your work and your team. It's a delight. Thank you. Two motions are going to be brought forward by Karen Auger, our treasurer. And the first one will be item number 2, and that is, be it resolved that the financial report for the year ending March 31st, 2021 be accepted. That's moved by Karen Auger, and second.
So moved. Willis Ingram.
Okay, thanks, Willis. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you, carried. And Karen has also moved the treasurer and finance chair, sent out some information regarding the auditors for 2021, 2022. And the finance committee recommended to the board accepted that motion, that be it resolved that Grant Thornton LLP be appointed as auditors of Hospice Peterborough for the fiscal year 2021-2022. So that's moved by Karen and second by
Heather Drysdale.
Heather Drysdale. Thank you, Heather. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you very much. The next item concerns the bylaws. The Board of Hospice Peterborough worked very hard, and I must congratulate and thank Len and Oini and a small committee of dedicated people who just love policies and bylaws. And I must admit that I was part of that as well. So I need to own up to that. But we worked very hard this year to review the organization's bylaws to ensure that they all align with the legal rules and regulations. The board has approved these new bylaws on March 25th, 2021. However, the membership has to ratify the new bylaws, and a copy is part of your package. So the motion will be it resolved that the membership ratifies Hospice Peterborough's new bylaws that came into effect on March 25th, 2021. And that is being moved by Len Lipchus. A second, please.
I can do that. It's Heather Eatson.
Heather Eatson. Thank you, Heather. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you, and carried. Thanks, Len and Heine, for all of the work that you did. It's a tremendous amount of work. It's just, it's great. Thank you. Heine and I had the pleasure of sitting down a week or so ago with Elizabeth to try and summarize both of us to look at the year that's passed. You'll see in our annual report just some thoughts that we both had in terms of trying to navigate through the difficult year that David has alluded to. So I would invite you to look at that. And I want to thank Elizabeth for putting that together for us. We had the pleasure of just sitting and chatting, and Elizabeth had to actually do all the heavy lifting on that. So thank you. But I would like to make a couple of further comments. And as I was thinking about the past year, which was my first year as chair of the board, I realized that I have the distinction of being the first president, and hopefully the last, to complete a full year without the pleasure of meeting around a boardroom table. We Zoomed, as David said, throughout the many meetings, both board and committee. But despite that limitation, I'm very proud of the way that we as a board adapted to this pandemic and accomplished the many important issues this year. Challenging issues in a challenging environment. Our board dealt with the pandemic with much resiliency and worked on issues with enthusiasm and dedication while caring for our own families and busy careers. We learned how we could support each other and how to support Hospice Peterborough. We learned much about technology. The freeze frame, love that one. Times when your voice turns like a slow motion zombie movie. And our very favorite, you're on mute. We even learned to work in breakout sessions during our work on the new strategic plan. In case you're wondering, I did not lead that technological feat. Someone much younger figured that out. We found a way to record a board video in support of our staff, only to find out that after a couple of practice sessions and what we thought was the real deal, I forgot to press record. Oh well, it's the thought that counts. Regardless, the board tried very hard to both understand and support the frontline staff of the community hospice and the residents. We are proud to be associated with many professional and compassionate personnel who do an amazing job. Congratulations to Heine, her managers, Angela, Natalie, Jeanette, Allison, and their staff. Our work on the strategic plan was vital, interesting, and completed with involvement from board members and staff. We appreciated the input of 465 individuals who took the time throughout this process to participate and share their knowledge, their expertise, and ideas. Our strategic priorities are trusted leadership in hospice palliative care, exemplary programs and services, organizational excellence, and financial sustainability. Our board is well positioned to continue to focus on these issues and to ensure the sustainability of Hospice Peterborough now and into the future. We rely on the leadership of current board members and, of course, all those past board members who have contributed so much to our development. We need to be mindful of the many contributions of donors, board members, staff, and volunteers who got us to where we are today. As a board, we revised our bylaws and made sure that they were in line with new legislation. We initiated a legacy fund conversation this past year under the leadership of Len Lipchus. This legacy fund in the future will provide ongoing income for our organization. In the fall, we will continue to build the structure for this to happen. Stay tuned, more to come. In the fall, we are also looking forward to be involved with the final steps of the accreditation process through Hospice Palliative Care Ontario. We are confident that hospice will be recognized for its adherence to standards and to surpass these requirements. We want to thank Jody Dunn and Hoyne for their ongoing leadership, the committee members and staff for a tremendous amount of work preparing for this recognition. You will prove what a vital and valuable service you provide to this community in a highly professional manner. As president, I have relied on and benefited from the advice and counsel from each of our board members. Thank you for your community involvement and for choosing Hospice Peterborough. I would like to especially acknowledge and thank the executive committee for their advice and support. Past Chair Shelley Berry, Vice President Len Lipchus, Treasurer Karen Auger, Secretary Mary Blair, and of course, the ever-present Hoyne. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge and thank all of our committee members for their dedication, their expertise, and advice to all the various committees. Your time is so much appreciated. I commend the work and leadership of our committee chairs, our Vice President and Chair of the Governance Committee / Legacy Fund / I don't know what else, Len Lipchus, our Treasurer and Chair of the Finance Committee, Karen Auger, our Chair of Equality Committee, John Corso, Chair of the Resource and Development Communication Committee, Heather Drysdale, Chair of the Recruiting Committee, Kirsten Burgomaster, and Chair of the Chairs Committee, yes, we have a Chair of a Chairs Committee, Shelley Berry. In 2020 and 2021, we welcomed 3 new board members, Becca Webster, Marie Hines, and Heather Eatson. I would also like to acknowledge and support the dedication of Heather Drysdale and Bill Lockington. Heather and Bill are leaving after a number of years on the board. Thank you for all of your wise advice and involvement in Hospice Peterborough. You will be missed, but like we said about David, you never really get away. And don't be surprised if we twist your arm for future projects and advice. You will always be a welcome part of the hospice family. Succession planning is so important in our organization. And with that in mind, I would like to introduce Kirsten Burgomaster with the nomination of our new board members. Kirsten?
Thanks very much, Bob. And hopefully I am not muted. Very difficult to follow, but thank you so much for those kind words. So each year, the board of Hospice Peterborough, we conduct a very thorough recruitment process, and that includes a board skills gap analysis to identify what skills we're missing from the board. This is a really important part of our work. Now, subsequent to that, the board leads a recruitment process. That includes posting for positions that need to be filled on the board. That's based on the skills analysis that I just spoke about, shortlisting and interviewing the most qualified candidates. The process was the same this year. The board of directors are very pleased to bring forward 2 names to the membership to be elected as new board members. Adam Burns, who is on the screen tonight, lives in Peterborough and attended Trent University, where he received his Bachelor of Business Administration and later his MBA from the Richard Ivey School of Business. Adam has been a resident of the Peterborough community for 3 years with his family and is an active member of the Peterborough Regional Health Centre Foundation. Margaret Keatings has had a place to call home in Lakefield since 1989. Margaret has had an extensive clinical and leadership career in nursing and has led many initiatives, including the advancement of palliative care programming. Her healthcare background and personal family experiences give her unique insights and informed perspectives that will benefit Hospice Peterborough. The board is pleased to recommend Adam and Margaret to be elected as board members for the 21 to 24 term, and would also like to recommend to the membership the re-election of Len Lipchus and Mary Blair for the 21 to 24 term as returning board members. In your package, you will find the biographies of all new and returning board members. Thank you very much. I would now like to ask Bob to kindly read the motion.
So the motion is, be it resolved that the following board members be elected for their first term, Margaret Keatings and Adam Burns, and for their second term, Mary Blair and Len Lipchus. And that's moved by Kirsten. And could I have a second, please?
John Corso, I second that.
John Corso, thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you. Kirsten, thanks very much for your work and for presenting here tonight. We have a special guest with us, Rick Firth. I believe that Rick is here with us, and Rick is the CEO of HPCO, Hospice Palliative Care Ontario. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick and with a special presentation. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Robert. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here this evening with everyone. Hospice Palliative Care Ontario has an awards and recognition program that is based on nominations from peers to recognize excellence in hospice palliative care in the province of Ontario. The Dr. S. Lawrence Liebrack Award for Palliative Medicine in the Community was established in 2013 and first awarded in 2014 in honor and memory of our colleague, Dr. Larry Liebrack. Larry began his medical career in 1970 and became an early and instrumental presence in Canadian palliative care. Throughout his 35 years of service, Dr. Liebrack was a teacher and a mentor and an encouraging and enthusiastic colleague and friend who embraced every opportunity to give of himself and who consistently inspired others to do the same. The award is bestowed upon a physician who demonstrates excellence in leadership in palliative medicine and advances palliative care in their community through mentorship of family physicians. I'm very pleased to announce that the 2021 Dr. S. Lawrence Liebrack Award for Palliative Medicine in the Community is awarded to Dr. John Beamish. Congratulations. Dr. Beamish has been providing palliative care in the city and county of Peterborough for more than 3 decades. Recently retired from family practice, he continues to provide palliative care and consultation in the community at Hospice Peterborough and in the palliative care unit at the Regional Hospital. Dr. Beamish was one of the founding members of Hospice Peterborough in 1988 and has served many roles within the organization, and he was a driving force in the establishment of the Hospice Care Center and its 10-bed residence and facilities for community programming, which opened in 2019. And he's currently medical director of the hospice. Dr. Beamish has served as a formal and informal mentor to physicians in the region and as a clinical preceptor for residents in his family palliative care practice. His support and mentorship has inspired many medical residents to incorporate palliative care into their practice, and his mentorship to family doctors has allowed them to continue care for their clients rather than referring them to a palliative care physician. I've been doing palliative care or hospice for a very long time, and that mentorship of family physicians is the most important aspect of the education that happens throughout the sector, because without more family doctors doing palliative care within their practice, it's very difficult to provide the level and quality of care that we've all come to expect within the system. Dr. Beamish has also worked to enhance systems in Peterborough that support clients to successfully palliate at home through the community on-call physician consulting service, which provides 24/7 on-call support. And I've heard from many of his colleagues that Dr. Beamish has been a consistent teaching and mentoring presence throughout the region, improving practice, and most importantly, bringing compassionate care to the people he serves. So on behalf of Hospice Palliative Care Ontario and your peers, Dr. Beamish, congratulations on receiving this award.
Thank you very much, Rick. I accept this award with a deep sense of humility. For, as we know in palliative care is not delivered by any individual, but is delivered by a team. And I have been supported and sustained by an incredible team in Peterborough County. This award really feels to me like an acknowledgement of the superb system of care that has evolved here in Peterborough County. Historically, palliative care grew around nodes in academic centers. That had its challenges, as we all know, fighting for legitimacy and struggling for resources. But in small cities and rural areas, the challenges have been different, but the hill just as steep. Usually, it fell to a small group of devotees who nurtured a dream of comprehensive, science-based palliative care. These visions slowly seeped out into the community, and new models of care unique to each community evolved. In palliative care and in Peterborough County, thanks to the leadership of Hospice Peterborough, we have developed an integrated model that follows patients from community through a hospital-based unit to a community-based residential hospice and into grief. This is no small statement and is indeed relatively unique in the province. This award acknowledges the long commitment and dedication of Peterborough County to delivering state-of-the-art palliative care. So on my own behalf and on behalf of my colleagues in all areas of care, I thank you for this honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to hold up the plaque that goes with the award, but I realize we've couriered it to Dr. Beamish.
Everything is virtual these days, Rick.
Everything.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. And we concur with what Rick has said. It's a pleasure to work with you. Rick, thanks for taking the time tonight to do this. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would like to pass it back to Hoini to say a few words.
It won't be short, Bob. So just get comfortable in your seat. We have another extraordinary year behind us, one that hopefully we will never face again. It was hard for individuals and for organizations, and the hospice team showed its resiliency again and again, time after time. It has taken all of us, board, staff, volunteers, community partners, and donors. As you know, Hospice Peterborough is governed by a volunteer board of directors. I would like to thank every single board and board committee member for their time, expertise, and dedication during this past year. They all bring diverse skills and expertise to our organization, giving their time and dedication to lead and shape current and future hospice palliative care in our community. It was not an easy year, yet our board has accomplished so much. New bylaws, a review of all governance policies and procedures, a new strategic plan, and our board never failed to show their support and appreciation to our staff and team. Through messages, goodies, muffins, notes, hilarious videos, they always found what we really need to help us get through a challenging time. Their care truly demonstrated the extraordinary compassion and kindness that filters through the work of hospice care. The 2020 and 21 board members were Karen Auger, Shelley Berry, Mary Blair, Kirsten Burgomaster, Bob Campbell, John Corso, Heather Drysdale, Heather Eatson, Marie Hines, Len Lifkus, Bill Lockington, Christina Murphy, Otis Smith, Becca Webster, and our board youth intern, Jacob Van Haften. Thank you for your leadership, your kindness, and your community spirit. We would like to honor two board members who are retiring this year. Heather Drysdale began her involvement with Hospice Peterborough volunteering on the Gala Committee. She served as a board member for 6 years. In her second term, she was the chair of the Resource Development and Communication Committee, chair of the Hike for Hospice Committee, and continued to be a member of the Gala Committee. Bill Lockington served on the Hospice Board since 2016 and was a member of the Governance Committee for several years. He also supported the strategic planner recruitment, the creation of our new bylaws. He was one of the motivators behind our legacy fund, our both board youth intern, and the board body program, which is, I hear it's amazing. Thank you, Heather and Bill, for all you have given to Hospice Peterborough. Historically, Hospice donates a book to our library in honor of retiring board members. This year, the two books we purchased to honor Heather and Bill are Final Gifts by Maggie Gallanan and Patricia Kelly, and With the End in Mind by Catherine Mannix. These books are selections actually for the Hospice Book Club, which is a peer-to-peer education session for our volunteers and staff to talk about issues related to dying and grief. These books will always remind us of your contribution to Hospice, Bill and Heather. Thank you. Last but not least, I would like to recognize and personally thank Bob Campbell, our board chair and president. As Bob already pointed out, he's the first president and probably last in the history of hospice who was never able to chair a meeting with people actually sitting around the table. Despite the COVID reality, Bob did an amazing job holding the board together, ensuring a great atmosphere on meetings, checking it with everyone and moving items along. Bob has a special ability and gift to connect to people, and his leadership shines through all the successes our board had this year. Further to this, he was a tremendous support to me personally. He never failed to make sure that I am okay and was ready with sage advice whenever it was most needed. Bob, our ship could not have had a better captain this year. Thank you for all of your hard work. We are looking for another year with you in the captain's seat. Also, thank you so much to your friend, Angus McPherson, for all of his contributions. Similarly to many nonprofit organizations, Hospice Peterborough could not exist without its volunteers, and David already talked about this. Our volunteers carry us on their shoulders. They are the hearts and hands of Hospice Peterborough. No other year we felt this more than during this COVID year when most of our volunteer work had to be paused and suspended because of COVID. Seeing the friendly smiles on our reception and gardening volunteer faces when they were able to return to the building was the most special gift to all the staff members. We hope that all other volunteer activities can start up later this year, sooner than later. And knowing how much we miss everyone, I can only imagine how much our clients miss you all. Thank you to all of our amazing volunteers for their hard work. I also would like to express our sincere appreciation to our donors. Without your support, we would not be able to provide such a high quality care and so many services to our clients and their families. Your donations actually cover more than 30% of the cost we need to provide our services. And some programs, like our grief groups, which are essential support for so many people, are covered fully, and I mean fully 100% by your generosity. Similarly to other services, the delivery of hospice care bends under the weight of this pandemic. Our care remains unchanged. Hospice Peterborough has been responsive to changes in the healthcare system for over 30 years, and we will continue to face all of the obstacles to fulfill our mission. We are grateful to you for your continued investment in hospice care. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you. And last but not least, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge our wonderful team at Hospice, Team Awesome. First of all, a huge thank you to Dr. Beamish and to all of our palliative physicians to take such an amazing care of our clients. And congratulations, John, for such a well-deserved award. At the end of 2020-21, Jody Dunn retired from her position as the manager of residents. Jody was a blessing for Hospice Peterborough as she agreed to come out of retirement to support the smooth startup of our new 10-bed hospice care center. Jody wonderfully paved the way for Janet Larson, who took on this significant role at the end of March. Jody also plays a crucial role in our current accreditation process and thankfully agreed to continue to support us in this process after her retirement. Last summer, David Kennedy partially retired, and he fully retired a month ago. David was an instrumental figure in our team and gave so much to our clients for so many years that it will take us a long time to get used to not having him with us every day. What helps us is that we have hired 3 new fantastic supportive care counselors, Red Keating, Julie Brown, and Lynn Galaeza, to bring forward David's legacy. We had to say goodbye to another few colleagues in 2021, Tracy Davis and Corey King, while Will Pialagitis, Elizabeth Bauer-Gordon, Lisa Rossi, Mary Pat Goodridge, Sherry McCarthy, and Siobhan Ryan and Melissa Kenny joined our team. As for the rest of the team, I have to say, Hospice has an exceptional group of staff. Change is always so challenging and a trial for the strength of an organization. 2020 and 21 was full of changes for us, most of them caused by COVID-19. Come to the office to work from home, come back, no, it's lockdown, go back home, work from this desk, no, you have to separate, move to another desk, you have to wear full PPE, you can let 8 visitors in, no, it's 6, no, it's 2, oh, 6 again, no, it's just 2. Read the new HR manual, fill out this form for accreditation. Oh, Jody is retiring. Oh no, David is retiring. Greg is retiring. Oh no, Justice just left. Oh my goodness. You can see clients in person. No, you can't. Yes, you can, but only in the office. No, you can't. Yes, no, no. Nothing shows the strength of a team better than hardship. The current pandemic demonstrates the strength of our team and that together we can face anything. Team Awesome. Thank you for putting up with all the challenges. Thank you for always going above and beyond for our clients, their families, our volunteers, and each other. I feel blessed every day to be able to work with such an amazing team. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for bearing with me for so long. I just had a lot to say.
Thank you, Heidi. That was great. Just before we complete our AGM and we have our final motion to adjourn, I just want to thank everybody. I know that when I saw Paula come up on the screen, she put on the chat, it's so nice to see everybody. And it's really hard not to be around a table, or I know that many of us, as board members are in the, we were in the building quite a bit. There's an opportunity to meet people and to try and continue to make that connection between the board in our work in support of your work. So I know that I kind of was a frequent flyer around the office and until somebody decided to kick me out. And in fact, the first time that I met Hoini, she kicked me out of her office. So that was the start of our relationship, and it just got better from there. So
I was busy. I'm sorry, Bob. I was so busy.
She was busy. I wasn't. So I think that we all feel that we want to be there again and to continue to build that relationship. And I'm certainly looking forward to having a board meeting, and just the idea of before the meeting and after, just having some chats. The donors, the volunteers, I know that everybody's looking for that less restrictions and the light at the end of the tunnel. So let's also have a good summer. Thank you so much for your presence tonight. Thank you for your support of us as a Hospice Peterborough and Hospice Board. You're always there to help us, and we are privileged to be your representation. Hopefully next year we'll be together in person, and I hope that you can stick around and look at I think there's a slideshow, Amy, afterwards. And also just a quick reminder to our new board that you're not off the hook yet tonight. We have a board meeting, and so we'll see you on the flip side, as my friend would say. Want you to stay safe and enjoy the summer. Mary Blair will make the motion to adjourn the meeting, and I guess I don't need a second for an adjournment, right? So Mary so moves. Our meeting is adjourned, and thank you once again.